Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Today is Antiwork Monday, with a few stories that will help you get through the week. Screw you and your cake. Our first story comes from the pettyrevenge subreddit, posted by Lit Beavis. The company was originally family owned, and they treated the employees great, casual dress code and easygoing. I was young, and it felt more like going out to hang with friends than going to work. I was a shift supervisor at the start, and all calls got answered, work was completed on time, and everything was very laid back. The last of the family members died during my 6th year, and a new board of directors and CEO took over, and everything went corporate overnight. Button-down shirt, dress pants, no sneakers. Other than Fridays, I guess jeans and sneakers on a Friday doesn't lower the stock price. The team I managed was all tech support, non-customer facing, so forcing them into dress shoes and dress pants seemed dumb. This was the beginning of my disgruntled nature. One of our CEOs, who had an office in our building, was so petty he would sneak into the call center on weekends when the rest of the office was closed. He would take off his shoes so as to make no noise, and in his socks sneak in through the back door to check under desks and make sure that nobody was wearing sneakers. What a way to spend his weekends! Dude needs to get a hobby. Then he'd complain to me or my manager when he found someone. Another fun petty fact, I started pouring water on the kitchen floor by the call center back door so that he would step in it in his socks. When he bitched, I just shrugged it off, as someone must have spilled something. I got a new manager, and he was vastly untechnical and micromanaging, a very, very annoying man. He was also very passive-aggressive. He'd do something stupid, I'd yell at him, face to face in his office, and he would say nothing. After sitting down at my desk, 10 feet away from his office, I would get a very strongly worded email about our interaction, CC to the new corporate overlord. The company got super cheap unless it was for manager meetings or special occasions where they could put on a public appearance of being a family-friendly place to work. Cue the company's 10-year anniversary. All the bigwigs came down to our office and a few even flew in from out of state. They had a huge sheet cake with the name of the company and 10 years written on it. It was sitting unguarded in the cafeteria. As I was walking through, I noticed that nobody was around, and I grabbed a knife from the table. I cut out a perfect square from the middle of the cake, and like a fat kid, I ate it with my bare hands. I nearly choked trying to eat it so quickly, worried that someone would come into the cafeteria. Imagine that Heimlich maneuver. Hey, what's she choking on? Stolen cake! I washed my hands of frosting quickly and fled. A few minutes later, our CEO, flanked by his cronies, came storming through the call center, yelling that he wanted to know who ate the cake. They had a professional photographer who was going to take a photo of all of them behind the cake for the local newspaper. But now, the 10 years and a huge chunk of the company name was missing. I sat there quietly and said nothing. In fact, this is the first I've spoken about it in 15 years. F you and your cake. My second time being excluded from lunch at work, and I don't know what to do. Our next story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit, posted by Mazel Mads. I made a post a little while ago saying I was feeling a bit hurt and I didn't know how to handle being excluded from lunch at work. Brief backstory. I started work in October. 3 days later, they had a GA day, a day where a doctor comes to our dental office to put the kids to sleep. And they had a big catered lunch for everyone. I was asked to leave the office to take my lunch. Everyone else was not. I tried to assume it was because it was only my first week. This would have been a great opportunity to welcome you into the office and for you to get to know everyone. However, fast forward to today, my second GA day. I've been here for weeks now, and I was again asked to leave the office for lunch at 11. Just as a coworker was coming in with a big box of food and said, "Lunch for everyone!" I'm feeling extremely embarrassed, humiliated, excluded, and unliked. I try being super friendly with everyone. I don't understand why it's just me that's told to leave for this catered lunch. I'm so embarrassed and awkward, and I don't know how to handle the situation or what to say, so I just say okay and leave. I want to know why, but I'm also too embarrassed and ashamed to ask, and I would feel silly. I wouldn't even know how to word it, or when or where to bring it up, or even if I should bring it up. What do you guys think? Too long didn't read. Second time, my new job has excluded me from a catered, paid-for lunch. I'm embarrassed, ashamed, humiliated, hurt, and feeling excluded, and I don't know what to do, or even if I should do anything. Down in the comments, Witchy Nightstar says, the first thing I say is, this has nothing to do with you. It's them. And it's weird behaviour. Very weird. I would personally ask and say, I would love to get to know everyone better. Can I bring my own food? Is there a reason I've been asked to leave? I know it's not easy to ask this, but it's also not rude. In fact, they're being rude. If there is no answer and it's just a toxic culture, I would cut losses and find a new job. Also, it only feels rude to say because you're kinda highlighting their treatment of you. It's funny how calling out someone else's rudeness is seen as rude. I love Maroon Grad's comment. We had a potluck today. I'm a teacher. It was delicious. And the substitutes were told about it and invited to have some. So was the security officer and our custodian. That is how it's supposed to work. And it's why we're the only school around here that gets subs consistently. Same with bus drivers. I would quietly put in applications elsewhere. If you have a coworker that you like and trust, see if they've noticed that you weren't there. If it's a small office, 20 or so, they all noticed. 40 to 50, it might have not been so obvious that you were gone both times. For the new job, see if you can get it to start the day after the next inevitable rude snub, and pack your desk and stuff while they're eating and head out. A 2-week notice period is a courtesy, and clearly courtesy is not valued there, so don't bother. I ruined my coworker's first chance at a vacation in 3 years. Our next story comes from the Petty Revenge subreddit. Posted by One Art Please. My coworker and I share a space. She's been there 3 years. Myself, 5 months. She's not my boss, but constantly looks over my shoulder, telling me how to change my work. She's rude to the people we work with overseas online. She does it all on speakerphone and ignores me when I ask her to use a headset while she yells at them. She talks about her stomach problems and her issues pooping. When I ask her not to, she tells me to get over it. If another coworker comes to speak to me, she answers for and over me. She also swears at her computer and verbally responds to every email she doesn't like. She also constantly talks under her breath while reading her work. I've asked her many times to please stop, but she got pissed, saying she doesn't jump to my tune and complains about having to walk on eggshells around me, as if she isn't accustomed to modifying her behaviour for anyone. The company is tiny, the owner is insanely and pitifully cheap, so I'm the first person in years that's able to cover her work. She's desperate for a vacation and recently booked a long trip to Hong Kong for 2.5 weeks. She doesn't know yet, but I was recently offered a way better full-time job through someone I've worked freelance for in the past. My freelancer is understanding if I wanted to push out my start date, as my coworker's holiday is in 2 weeks. But I think I'll give my notice early. Our boss is a huge a-hole and my coworker hates his guts. It should be an interesting fallout because if she goes on holiday, then there's no one who can do her job. She'll have a total meltdown. If this does not work, then quit. Posted by Logical Discussion 9. So, old story and somewhat petty, but back when I was in college, I worked for DPS. I was the a-hole that people hated and ticketed everyone. Anyways, I'd been working at this job for 6 months, minimum wage, when we got a new manager. I worked this job because they worked around my class schedule. When this new manager started, they gathered us all up to say the following: your schedules will no longer revolve around your classes. This is not how the real world works. If you have a problem with this, then you are free to quit. I proceeded to work the new schedule for a week and be late for my classes. Then I thought to myself, what's the point of a job if I can't get to my classes? So I wrote up a resignation letter and emailed it to my supervisor. He was chill and was like, okay. The manager calls and says I have to give her a minimum of 2 weeks notice, and I can't just quit. Did they give you 2 weeks notice that they were altering the schedule to interfere with your classes? I went to the office and handed her my letter of resignation. She then told me how unprofessional I was and how I can't use this place as a reference anymore. My response? As I recall your exact words last week, if this schedule does not work for you, you should quit. She then yelled at me, and how dare I throw this back in her face. Then how she was going to report me to the university. For what? Quitting so you can attend your classes? Well, nothing happened, and I still get a kick about how angry she was. Thanks for listening to my story. This is more like malicious compliance than petty revenge. You literally just did what they told you to. Some managers just don't get that employment is a two-way contract. You give me something, i.e. skills, time and labour, and in return, I give you something, money, benefits, etc. She reneged on her side of the bargain, the ability to work around your classes, and now she's shocked that her staff are pulling out of the deal and leaving. She wouldn't be so upset if she didn't need OP. Despite what they tell you, employers are easier to replace than employees. Remember, they need you more than you need them. I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.